Well, hello everyone, it's Christine Aachen here, and today I'm going to show you one of the ways that I like to make a multicolored bouquet look cohesive together. And so today I'm going to be using Power Poppy's gorgeous new set. This is awesome. If you can see the size of it, my hand is here and it's like the size of a double set. It's called Abundant Petals, and it also comes with dies, which you'll see over here. And it's a fantastic display of beautiful petals of lots of different varieties. And so I have a completed card that I have on this side, but I'm going to show you kind of how I make multiple colors work together, and we're going to use these pieces on this side. So if you look at this pretty bouquet of flowers, one thing that you'll probably notice is it obviously has lots of different colors that go in it. But there's a way to make multiple colors look like they belong together and tie them together in the display. So that's what I'm going to show you. So I love all of these flowers that are included in the set. There's on this card, I have a rose, there's ranunculus, some pretty daisies, a little peony bud, some French tulips, a berry leaf, and also some maidenhair ferns. Marcy draws some awesome different elements that go in her sets, and so I'm going to show you a little bit about how to do all of those pieces. I'm going to compare what's on this side to what's on this side. So we'll start with the rose. One of the things that I did to show you how you can tie these together, you can see I have this pretty little rose here, but I've only chosen to color it on this side in the single piece with some RV colors. So I'll pick up my colors and kind of show you the ones that I used. And it's only done in pinks for this rose. But if you compare my piece over on this side to the regular bouquet, you can see that in this one I've added lots of different colors to help it look more cohesive with the whole display. So I've added some BVs to make it look like it belongs with that sort of overall bouquet look. Now with the peony bud, I've done something a little bit similar. I've done a little bit of BVs and also some yellows to tie it into what that ranunculus looks like. On the ranunculus, I wanted that to look a little bit more like this orange French peony, and so I've added lots of orange into my yellow, and I've added a bunch of yellows and purples into my French tulip to make these things work together. Same with my pretty greenery. On the greenery, you can tell on this side it's just done with straight greens, so this one is YG 21 through 25. But in this one I've added lots of yellows, a little bit of purple, a little bit more like on the berries I've done them in B60 and B63, but then in the berries on this side I've added a V04 to make it look like it all belongs together. With the daisies, which daisies don't normally come in blue, I've colored them straight with B21 and 23, but on this one then I've added some more purples to make them work in the overall bouquet. So one of the things that I thought I'd do is to show you a little bit about how I add color into some of those images. So if we're going to use this ranunculus bloom, for instance, which I think is absolutely gorgeous, but I want that to tie a little bit more into this orange color to make these things work a little bit together. So I'm going to take some YR01 and YR02 and add that into my petals. So the one neat trick that I use on this image is to not color every single petal. So some of them I leave a little bit more white because ranunculus is really tightly curled together as a flower. And so in order to make it look like it has some dimension, you can see some of the petals I just leave almost white or the lightest shade of yellow. But then in the petal beside it, then I add a little bit more color so it gives you that sense of dimension. So you can see I'm using the yellow as my sort of cues, and where I've added darker yellow, then I'm going to also add a little bit more orange, and it makes it tie nicely into that tulip. So I'll come along here and add a bunch of different color with my YR01. And then in order to blend it out, I'll take, say, my YR20 that I colored originally and blend it out a bit. So in my house tonight, the NHL finals are going on, which is hockey, and my family is crazy about hockey. So if for some, I sent them all downstairs. So if for some reason you hear my kids or my husband cheering, it's because one of the teams has scored. My sons are cheering for Vegas, and my husband is a big, die-hard Washington fan. So depending on what you hear is who scored. And hopefully somebody scores. It's always fun to see them cheer for different teams. It makes for a very lively house. So as you can see now, if I would place my tulip here, it's starting to look a little bit more like these two belong together. So it's a neat way to add color that makes a multicolored bouquet go together. So I'm going to set that aside and show you a little bit more on this other tulip. Because I have a lot of blue shades going on in my maidenhair fern and in my daisies, I want to add some of that purpley blue shade into this tulip. So I'm going to take a B60 and B63 and add a little bit into the shadows of my pretty little other French tulip. Now it looks quite dark when you first add it, but as you blend it out then with your other R values, it will start to look like it belongs. So you'll have shade, you'll have depth, and it makes your petals have so much more dimension. So I can blend it out with my B60 if I'd like to, but I actually want it to take on a little bit more of the tones of the tulip. So then I'll come in with R11 and blend it out. So you can start to see that has way more depth and dimension. In my maidenhair ferns and in my pretty little daisies, I want some more purple, so I'm going to add in a V04. And on these maidenhair ferns, it's super simple. You just want quick strokes to follow the lines of the maidenhair ferns. Now in real life, maidenhair ferns are green. But you know what? I want them to work in my bouquet, so I'm making them blue and purple. So there, I wouldn't do a lot more. I might come in with my B21 and smooth it out a little bit, but I kind of like the way that looks. So in my daisies, I'll do something similar. Daisies have lots of texture in their little petals. So in the darkest areas, I'll add more of that violet color, but I might just stroke it out like this. Nice light flicking strokes. And then it has so much more dimension. One of the other things too is I want that green to tie in with other greens that are going on in my card. So I'm going to use a YG21 and add a little bit more of that bright green in some of these areas to give it a little vibrance and make it tie together. And then I'll come in again with my G02, add a little more dots, almost like pointillism. Or my G05. And add a little bit more depth. So those are already starting to look like they have a little bit more, sorry, I'm working on my light, a little more dimension. So that gives you some ideas of how to pull together different colors in order to get a multicolored bouquet to work together. I will show the finished card with some of my other pieces in a different style. I'll put some of the pieces together and then show you that card as well. Thanks for joining me.